give someone a bit of surprise and well-earned and well-deserved recognition. You know, I started my life in public service as a staffer, and you can take the girl out of the staffer. You can never really take the staffer out of the girl. So you always appreciate staff who toil in the wilderness, who do the back-breaking legwork that makes events like this all possible. And there is no finer human being, no finer person who I know who has made a commitment to serve a community than the Executive Director of Save Dade, CJ Ortuño. You may have noticed that I brought my daughter Rebecca with me tonight. Last year I had my youngest daughter Shelby. Rebecca's with me tonight, and I want to tell you a little bit of a story because sometimes, CJ and all of you, it's hard to know or see that the work that you're doing is really having an impact. So I want to share this story with you. During the week I was looking at my Twitter feed. How many of you are on Twitter or follow Twitter? Okay, there should be more hands. There should be more hands. We've got a lot of stuff we've got to promote. So of course I follow my daughter, and her Twitter account is private, so don't try to follow her. But I follow my daughter on Twitter, and this is what I find after the President's historic announcement this week. I see a tweet from my daughter Rebecca that says, "When the guy in my PE class says he wouldn't be sad if days didn't exist, hashtag you're the worst, hashtag shut up." So I wanted you to know that because I think my daughter's awesome, number one, but number two, I want you to understand that the work that Save Dade does, the work that groups that fight for human and civil rights every single day, that feel like, CJ, you are making such incredibly small, incremental progress sometimes. I mean, I think that we should delight in incremental change because every bit of change that we can succeed in fighting for and achieving is important. But to know that the generation that we are raising, the generation of Americans that we are raising now, is driving the conscience of the generation that gave birth to them, is really incredibly important. And in the words of Barack Obama, Sasha and Maria are the ones that helped him fully evolve. So it's my privilege to present this legislative and congressional certificate of appreciation to our very own Executive Director, CJ Ortuño. So, I'm so glad I got to share that with you. It's so exciting, and it is wonderful for me to be here with a room full of friends, people who just embrace each other. And, you know, I have to tell you, I know that when I leave this room tonight, I'm going to feel like I got shot out of a cannon because the love and the heart and the fight in this room is going to continue to propel us to the human and civil rights and dignity that every community so richly deserves. So it's wonderful to be here. Whether it's dedicating time, effort, and passion to a cause. Don't make me put my mother in three voices. Come on now. Or casting a vote, it's heroism like that of Save Dade and that of our honoree tonight that moves us forward. So what a week we've had for moving forward, huh? I'm pretty excited. And I know that you are excited too, and as thrilled as I am about Wednesday's announcement from President Illinois, his statement was a historic step forward in the decades-long march for civil rights. And it made us pause to look back to that brisk day in February of 2007 in Illinois when then Senator Obama laid down a vision that defined and challenged us. Remember what he told us? He told us that in the face of politics that's shut you out, that's told you to settle, that's divided us for too long, you believe we can be one people reaching for what's possible, building that more perfect union. I know you've heard it from me before, but now you know it. We have a true champion at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Ensuring that LGBT partners receive hospital visitation rights. Lifting the HIV entry ban. Extending the gender-based employment discrimination protections of the 1964 Civil Rights Act to transgender employees. The way I started my week this week, holding the first ever White House conference on LGBT aging right here in South Florida this past Monday. Not once, but twice, expanding federal benefits for same-sex partners of foreign service and executive branch government employees. And that's just in addition to repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Signing the Matthew Shepard Hate Crime Prevention Act and the Ryan White HIV/AIDS Treatment Extension Act into law, endorsing the Respect for Marriage Act, appointing 2 Supreme Court justices who will protect and fight for equality, and declaring that the Defense of Marriage Act is unconstitutional and refusing to defend an outrageous law. Now, as great as that is, I know that it wasn't all good news this week. North Carolina was definitely a setback. I know. And we've got a lot, it just means that we've got a lot more to do. We can take our victory lap this week, but we've got to start tomorrow, buckle down, and continue the education and promotion of tolerance and understanding that is going to help us get to a national commitment to human and civil rights in this country. But even if these last few years have shown us anything, it's that if we work together, knocking down obstacles brick by brick, the walls will come crumbling down. Because equality is not an aspiration, it's a destination. And if we are going to get there together. And we cannot get there without the support of all of our friends. Friends like Senator Bill Nelson, who's currently serving our great state in his 2nd term in the United States Senate. And I know that with your help, we will send him back to Washington for a 3rd term in the United States Senate. You may know that he's a 5th-generation Floridian and avid runner and the first person to ever fly into space as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives. And I can't do a traditional introduction here, Senator, sorry. But what you may not know is that our very own Senator Nelson has excellent taste in music. And while unfortunately I couldn't get the video footage here in time tonight, perhaps if we act nicely enough, Senator Nelson will give us all a rousing rendition of Elton John's Rocket Man. You may not know he once famously sang with Oklahoma's Senator Tom Coburn after a very auspicious occasion. The University of Florida Gators had just bested the Oklahoma Sooners in the BCS Bowl. So let's go Gators. I know there's some pains here. Sorry. But tonight, we recognize him not for his courage in singing publicly, though that's certainly admirable. We recognize him for his critical vote on a cold December day in 2010. British philosopher Alfred North Whitehead once said, "True courage is not the brutal force of vulgar heroes, but the firm resolve of virtue and reason." Senator Nelson showed us his resolve when he took one of the most critical votes in recent history, repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell. supporting and bonding publicly with the person that they love. With the repeal of this dishonorable policy, now they can do both. Senator Nelson made us all proud of his vote to end Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and he continues to be an ally for the LGBT community in Washington, even now as Congress works to reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act. He has been outspoken in his support for a bill that is the first LGBT-inclusive VAWA reauthorization in history. As we all know, domestic violence is a scourge on society that is not limited to any specific race, socioeconomic status, or sexual orientation. In fact, the rate of domestic violence among LGBT couples is almost the same as it is for heterosexual couples, about 25 to 35%. But LGBT victims are less likely to seek help. And of those who do, 45% have been refused help at shelters. Yet despite these disparities, congressional Republicans, both in the House and Senate, have by and large rejected the provisions that would ensure this year's VAWA reauthorization includes funds designated specifically for LGBT organizations dealing with domestic violence. And I know that Senator Nelson will continue to stand strong for an inclusive bill that includes these crucial provisions, just as he has stood strong with us in Florida on the vital need for AIDS drug assistance program funding. I'm proud that we have such a strong aid partner in the Senate, particularly one who will team up with Elton John to bring attention to the fight to ensure that everyone who needs it has access to life-saving AIDS and HIV treatment. We commend him for his continued dedication to bettering the lives of all Floridians. So now it is my privilege and pleasure to introduce and present my colleague, the recipient of Safe AIDS 2012 Champion of Equality Award, Senator Nelson.
Rocket Man! Most of you do not know that I am a native Miami. I was born in what was then the Victoria Hospital, which at one point became a psychiatric hospital. And at age 6, back then the Orange Bowl parade was on New Year's Eve, and it was a big deal in Miami. And at age 6, I was in the Orange Bowl parade. And what I was in the parade, I was a Latin dancer. Mr. Mayor, Madam Chairman, thank you all for this, and I brought all of this to talk about, but Debbie's talked about most of it already. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the privilege that you give me of representing all Floridians. And that's an important distinction. You already know about the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and it was a one-vote margin in the Senate Armed Services Committee. And that got it to the floor. And then we had some momentum so that we could squeeze it through the floor. Debbie told you about Elton John, not about Rocket Man, but I did an op-ed with Elton John on the need for AIDS drugs because the state of Florida was not funding the supply of AIDS drugs that are so desperately needed here, and of which we had such a long waiting list. Debbie did not mention to you most recently the way that children can be so cruel and injurious to each other by the comments, and especially the comments to children on their sexual orientation. I want to thank Debbie and Ileana for being the bipartisan sponsorship in the House on this legislation. All you have to do is to remember about a month ago the tragic story of a high school freshman who took his own life classmates had threatened him with the snotty comments, the phone calls, the emails, and they were the comments about this child being gay. The local newspaper of this child said it wasn't the first life that was lost to bullying, but we can strive to make it the last. And so that's part of this journey. And we're going to try to pass a bill that will make all of our children safer. Now, I want to close my comments. Ladies and gentlemen, these are difficult times. Just turn on your TV and you'll see the extremism, the polarization, the excessive partisanship, the ideological rigidity, the people who say it's going to be my way or no way, all of the right-thinking people. And that is what is happening in the body politic today. And what has to be done is you have to bring people together to build consensus in order to govern this country. Yeah. Now, I tell you this, and I'm going to tell you a story that has already been mentioned here, but I saw our planet from a unique perspective. And it's very typical of space flyers on the first day in space when you get a chance to get to the window. You're looking for things. I was looking for Cape Canaveral, where we were launched, looking for the peninsula of Florida. By the second day in space, your perspective is broadened and you're looking at continents. And by the third day in space, you're looking at home, the planet. And what I was struck with as a politician, as I looked back at this beautiful planet Earth, I didn't see religious boundaries, and I didn't see ethnic boundaries, and I didn't see all of the turmoil that bedevils us as humans, as we always try to defy and hate and war. What I saw was we were all in this together. And that's why we are at a significant point in our political history that we've got to bring people back together. We've got to be honest in that dialogue, and the dialogue can be respectful. And so, I just came here to thank you for the graciousness that you've extended to me, and to tell you what a privilege it is to represent Florida in the Senate, and that is to represent all